Okay, guys, today we're going to be doing a quick training on the Lone Star Agent app. Now, this is Lone Star Agent 1. You can find this in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Today we're going to be using an iPhone, so some of the things may be in different places if you're using an Android device, but for the most part, they're going to be pretty similar. Okay, so this is a non-paid app. It is free unless you decide that you want some of the premium features, which I do suggest. Those premium features will run you anywhere from 99 cents per month to $9.99 per year if you pay on an annual basis. As you open up the app, this will be your main landing screen. You will have at the bottom a buyer, seller, calculators, premium function if you have the premium function, and then a picture of Miss Susan Martin as your contact base. If you click on Susan's picture, it will bring up her contact information so you can connect with her directly there. If I scroll back over to the buyer calculator, I have a couple options. At the top left, I have a little hamburger menu that allows me to open up my profile and adjust accordingly, as well as my subscription and my notifications. From there, I also have on the middle the ability to switch this from Texas to New Mexico. And then over to the right, I have the ability to access my folders that I've saved estimates into in the past. Now I have folders at the bottom. At the top, I have what is considered recent estimates. This is where your estimates folder would save if you just decide to save it into the estimate folder. Okay. Just below that, I have types of loan, ranging from conventional to owner finance. On the right-hand side, I have what is considered closing costs. Now, this would be if I wanted to adjust these closing costs to shift from one side of the transaction over to the other. This would be if I'm working with a specific lender or a specific title company that may charge different numbers. I could adjust that here. Now, on top of that, it also gives me the function to adjust my defaults. Now, if you'll notice here, on the buyer broker fee, I have broker fee split. Now, this is more for the listing side, but I can adjust that to where it would not split. So I can leave it as on or off. I have interest rate as a standard for a conventional deal, insurance rate, and loan term, down payment, and so on and so forth. Now, one adjustment that I'd like you all to make, just because I feel that this is a great resource to have, is making sure that each of your funding fees and details are put together. Okay, these are things that you would get from your actual mortgage company, and they could walk you through some of these guidelines. Okay, now once I go back, one thing that I do want you all to change immediately, just because this is new for the year, is I'd like you to change this over to a VA loan. And if you'll notice at the top it says max VA loan, my current number is 0. I'm going to adjust that by pressing this little gear wheel and changing that number from 0 up to 510,400, which is the current number for this year. So this is the 2020 amount for VA loans for your max VA. Okay. Now, today we're going to run a max VA deal. Okay, so I'm going to push this in. I'm going to run a $150,000 loan with a down payment of 0, interest rate of 3.25, term of 30 years. Now, this miscellaneous number here allows me to adjust these two figures. The top being things that will be added in, and the bottom being things that will be subtracted from. Subtract from are things like escrow deposit credit, seller contribution, and additional fee. Escrow deposit would basically be the $500 or $1,000 that they're putting down. Seller contribution would be the closing costs that they'd be adding. And then option fee credit. So you could add those numbers in. So I'm going to put those in. Put $50 here. Once those are added in, I'm going to go back and it will save into my account directly. Of course, it doesn't work whenever I'm trying to show you. So those have been saved. Once those are saved in, I also have discount points that I can add in here. Okay. I also have hazard insurance, taxes. Now taxes on the left-hand side allow me to adjust for taxes based on the area. I'll show you in a later class how we can get those specific areas. You have HOA and then closing date. You can adjust the closing date by either clicking it or clicking the gear wheel on the right and adjusting that accordingly. Once I press compute, I get a couple additional options. So it brings up the nice clean statement that I can adjust here, or I can click on the top right and send this out to a client. I can send it as a full report. Now, while I'm in this, I can also send a geo report. I can text it, which sends it as a photo, or I can save this estimate for later. If I click on send full report, it gives me the ability to shift between which ones that I want. I can shift back and forth by swiping left and right in order to be able to select different versions of the same report. I simply press the top right and it will allow me to send that out. Now at the bottom left, I have what is called property details. This would be where I could narrow down this property to the specific property that they're looking at and break down some additional details, things like property photos, a video link, and then I could add in some information such as signature on here as well. Now, if I go back, I have a couple other options at the top left. So I have Smart Compare. This allows me to adjust my comparison. So this allows me to look at my loan in comparison to 5% with my loan, and then I can look at a 15-year my loan. I can also scroll down to look at details of what that means overall. And then if I click the top left where it says edit, it allows me to adjust those numbers and add in options if I want to do so. So I could change this to a FHA loan instead of a VA, and I could change this one to a conventional instead of that. Press compare, and that now adjusts my numbers accordingly from a conventional FHA or VA, being allowed to show a client that between $150,000, they could have 3 substantially different payments based on what they're bringing to the table and what the rate may be over the course of the lifetime of the loan. The other option that I have, if I scroll back over to the left, is I have the estimate, and then I have loan details. Now, loan details are very powerful because it allows a person to be able to see what their total interest amount would be in one flash shot. So a VA loan with 0 down, a funding fee of $34.50, and a total loan amount of $153,450, with an APR over the life of 3.742 would give me a total principal amount of $150,000, the amount I took, with interest of $86,965, taking my total cost for this loan to $236,000. Taking these numbers and showing a client that can have a massive impact on how you can show your value and allowing them to do what it can do. Okay? Now, given all those details, basically what we're going to do is we're going to scroll back over here to estimate, and I want you to swipe your phone to the left. Now, you can't see me doing this, but when I swipe it to the left or right, it brings up an additional number. This says how offer price can affect my payment. Now, you'll notice this is ranges of offer price from 150 by 10,000 increments, and it shows my PITI payment on the right. I want to adjust that a little bit, and I want to press this little gearbox at the bottom, and I don't want to look at it in payment amount. I want to look at it by difference, and I want to look at it in $5,000 increments instead of 1,000. I was at 10, so I'm going to change it into $5,000 increments. So if I offer the solution of 150,000, this gives me $5,000 increments and what my payment would change by that increment. So I'm talking to a client and they say, hey, listen, I want to make sure that I stay under this payment. You can say that if we go up by that 5,000, it would only increase your payment by $37. You can also send this in a great little pamphlet that shows that number, and there's 2 versions of this as well. Okay, so once I've got all this done, I probably want to save this so I can keep it for future estimates. So I'd click on the little button at the top right, press Save Estimate, and I could save it into my file. Now, today we're going to move over to the seller side just for quick purposes. And remember, I'll go into a little more details later on. But once again, let's say we're selling that same $150,000 deal. And I press compute, brings up my net number. I have a real cool option on the left-hand side that is called multiple offers. This is something I'll go in depth on in our next training because this is something that I use, especially in today's market, rather substantially. Okay, I'm going to switch over to my holding cost. Now this allows me to show something really powerful to a client that shows them that if I wait for 3 months, what is that going to cost over the long term? Now this is based on insurance and other details such as taxes. These are your non-impactful nature features, right? This does not include interest, which I do think is something that can be very substantial, and that is something that you want to make sure you're taking into account as well. Okay, so something to kind of maintain, something to keep an aspect. Now you'll notice my interest rate is set at 3.99. The reason that that holding cost is not laying into aspect is because when I did my adjustment, I didn't have a loan balance. But let's add a loan balance in here real quick of $100,000. Do a compute again, and then if I switch back over to this holding cost, you'll notice that I've now added in an additional interest cost into the equation. Very powerful stuff when you use it effectively. And like I said, this once again also has a great feature set that allows you to put it in a nice, crisp nature that says if a client waits 12 months, they could lose up to $7,191 based on taxes, insurance, and interest. Very good stuff for you to be able to be very effective in your presentation. The next stuff, guys, we're going to be talking about in the longer term, and that's going to be things like calculators and premium features. Okay, so those will be the next two classes. I hope that was rather useful. One thing I did want to show, if I go back to the seller net sheet and I shift to the left, it brings up this next thing that will say how much will I net at close if my numbers change. It brings up once again in a $5,000 increment, and it allows me to change that based on show decreasing or show increasing. In the market that we're dealing with, we might want to show it by an increase of $1,000 per. So it basically shows you that as their net moves up, this is what you'd be walking away with. Okay, but you could also change that to show decreasing and do that as well. Or last but certainly not least, you could show both ways. Okay, and you could change your increment by 5, 10, or $1,000. Excellent. Well, I hope that was useful. And like I said, guys, if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate. I will run 2 other trainings. This one will be based on the calculators and the premium functionality. I will also show you how to use this app on your computer through both the web and through a downloaded app. Thank you, guys. Have a great day.